And welcome into a special streaming edition of KC Sports Tonight. Here it is a Monday. I'm Jared Koller, joined by one of my favorite people to talk sports with. Why? Because Gabe Swartz knows ball, and we also disagree a decent amount, so I like when I'm right, I can say, hey, Gabe, you were wrong. I won't let him say how often that happens. Now, moving on to...
Unlike Neil Jones, I'll admit when I'm wrong, too. So
there you go, that too. No, high-level sports analysis always when Jared and Gabe get together, I like to think. And now we're bringing it to the first time to the streaming audience. So thanks for hanging with us here on a Monday or whenever you are catching us. Gabe, it's an exciting day. It's an exciting time because Chiefs training camp is in full swing now. The team reported to Missouri Western in St. Joseph, Missouri, with the first full team practice this weekend on Sunday. So we'll kind of lump yesterday's practice into today's practice, 2 days in the books. Before we get to our topics, leading, of course, with the news of the day that Xavier Worthy did not practice today due to an illness. Before we dive into these storylines, your overall first impressions from camp.
That it took like an hour for the Chiefs to produce a viral video clip that had the rest of the league being like, are you serious? They're doing this again? I mean, Sunday morning, just to see Twitter lose its mind over both the fact that Patrick Mahomes is capable of rolling left like that and chucking a ball 60 yards. If you didn't see it, he threw like a 60-yard moving left across his body throw that was, if it had been thrown to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, might have been dropped, but Xavier Worthy's down there. And that kind of shows you that I know last year Patrick Mahomes had like one of the lowest deep ball percentages in terms of hit rates. You're seeing it now.
And here's the video.
And
Yeet.
It just shows you how much deep ball accuracy is kind of a receiver stat, not a quarterback stat, because you can throw the ball well and it can be dropped, and we saw plenty of that last year. But if you're going to have a deep ball tracker like that with Xavier Worthy, that's why it was disappointing that he was sick today, because it might have robbed us of more of it.
Right. And that's where
it's a really encouraging sign.
Right, and it's also a great chance to show how good Patrick Mahomes is. A reminder, because he didn't do this that much last year just because he didn't have the opportunities, but this man sprinted to this hash mark, or past the hash mark to the numbers there, and then just says goodbye, chucks it completely down the field. Not bad defense by Brian Cook there. And then check out the reaction, all right? We've got Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Juwan Taylor all doing the ref's job, letting them know that's a touchdown.
Yeah.
And Gabe, do you see the guy in the bottom right corner there? That is Matt Nagy. Let's just watch Matt Nagy for a second, okay? He's pretty fired up. All right. Oh, fist pump, wait. Now we're high stepping. And then we've got. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know you're about to get to El Travador,
Travador.
I was thinking the if you go back just a little bit, Chris Jones had the look of like,
oh, we can do that here.
A little bit of disappointment, but also like, that he's about to say something to Creed and Trey of like, well, that's a good sign for the offense.
There's Chris, hands on his hips, going, you know what? I'm glad we don't have to go.
We don't have to guard those guys in real games.
Those are his teammates. It must be kind of weird to not sell it. Like during a game, you're losing your mind, but here you're like, oh, they did that against us. You got to kind of stay composed. The high step right there by Matt Nagy, just phenomenal. And here comes El Travador. There you go, Travis. he's feeling it.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's all about. That was Xavier Worthy. So let's dive into that, Gabe. He missed practice today with an illness, which is good. We didn't know that till after practice. We were wondering if something happened, because he missed a lot of time after he was drafted with a hamstring injury. But no reason for concern. He did impress on Sunday. I think it's important to note not just that he was showing out with the deep ball, but this was with the first team. Those are reps where it's not exactly a given like this team last year, because you have Hollywood Brown, you have Rashee Rice in the fold, and the fact that he's getting those early targets, because it wasn't just that deep ball. He caught a couple other passes as well. I think that's a good sign for his development.
Yeah, it's a very good sign, and especially because we keep talking about it. Neil was talking about it in our 5 o'clock news with the Rashee Rice suspension and whatever that ends up being. Speaking of Rashee Rice, not a great day from him today with the 2 fumbles in camp. But like camp is what you make of it. It's It's kind of like whatever you want to believe. You believe in the good things, you talk away the bad things for the most part.
There's always a slant and angle you can take, right? If the offense is looking great, you can say our offense looks great, and if someone else can say your defense is looking bad, you can say, no, our offense is that good. It goes both ways.
Yeah,
right?
Which kind of could be more valid for the Chiefs than most teams because
I think so.
Their defense has been proven to be great. I think it's just exciting to think about the ideas of what the downfield passing attack could be for this year's team because we haven't even seen anything of when we saw in OTAs the videos that the Chiefs were putting out themselves of Marquise Brown catching deep balls as well. I just think that this could be one of the more complete Chiefs offenses that they've had because of third year of Isaiah Pacheco, how comfortable he can be in the system. It could be the most well-rounded the offense has been since maybe when they had Kareem Hunt in 2018, and you had the added benefit of how well Patrick Mahomes just understands coverages, schemes, the offense, checks the line of scrimmages, all those types of things. He's just a better quarterback, and if they have that kind of skill around him, it's very important.
Chemistry with someone like Travis Kelce, more developed. I think the thing that would be the difference maker between that season is obviously the tackle play in the sense that Mitchell Schwartz was an all-pro, Eric Fisher was really strong, and now you've got a left tackle, uncertainty, competition there. Juwan Taylor was good, probably not worth the price tag, though, at right tackle. However, you can say, hey, the interior line's better. With those, depending on where Joe Tooney is at, we don't know what we're going to get from him coming back from injury, but Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith are solid, except Humphrey when he was hurt and snapping bad snaps every 5 snaps last year. But on the whole, you'd like to think that the interior offensive line is a strength. So, no, that's an interesting comp, and I think it's a good sign, and it's interesting to compare year to year, and someone who can do that more than most is Clark Hunt, because, Gabe, he's been here a while now. This is his 18th year as chief CEO and chairman. And today he talked to the media, and the headline, of course, is starting with the future of the stadium, and I guess I'll open it generic to you. Any comments, any quotes, any thoughts from either Clark Hunt or Mark Donovan on Friday that stand out to you about the future of where the Chiefs will call home?
Well, I think after you have a failed election in April, and then some of that could be attributed to poor messaging and the lack of decision-making from their neighbors across the parking lot in the Royals they didn't know if they wanted to be in North KC, they didn't know if they wanted to be in the East Village, they didn't know if they wanted to be in the Crossroads.
Right.
There's all of that. Then you have Friday come, and Mark Donovan says, we're going to set a 6-month deadline. And then you have Monday come, and Clark Hunt goes, well, I don't know. I don't know if I don't like that. So
I think the quote was optimistic, like to reach a finish line in 6 months is optimistic.
Which felt like a pretty significant backtracking of, we might not be able to get that done. I don't know if that's the greatest messaging to have the club president and then the club CEO, essentially 2 business days separating it. With that kind of varying and messaging in terms of how organized and how decisive they are. In reality, that probably tells you just how undecided they are on the situation at hand at the moment. So I don't really think that I'm going to believe much in the 6-month deadline that Mark Donovan set because of what it is.
It's a campaign, or at least it was a campaign, and it could be, and you're working on public opinion. I agree. I think that was the headliner, but it's also important to note that that Clark Hunt said they've outgrown the training facility, and so that's why in the graphic I put facing future stadium complex, because we're not just talking about a new stadium here. We're talking about an entire complex and the surrounding areas, and that's why Kansas is a potential option because of how much more you can grow in the surrounding areas. He also said everything's on the table as far as a dome. And so I think that there are more options now than they had before, and that's why maybe Clark is saying, okay, maybe not 6 months. Let's kind of see how this plays out, what we can do. But we know the Star Bonds won't be there forever. The other thing to note is Missouri Western now in its 14th year hosting the camp. Obviously, that is not signed on to a long-term deal. I think, Gabe, if they get a new stadium complex, whenever that is built, that training camp will then be there because Andy Reid figures not to be the coach anymore. So I don't know how many more years are left at Missouri Western. I think that's another thing to keep in mind.
Well, yeah, I think that the going away to camp part of it is something that matters most to Andy Reid.
Only 8 teams in the NFL currently are away this year.
Yeah, and has been proven to work, but you can justify not doing it and justify going back to what most of the league is doing and as being fine. I don't think that that's what ultimately is the reason for the Chiefs' success as much as it is just that they run a great training camp and that they
have good
are
players.
tested and that they have great players and they have the best quarterback in the world and all of those other things
kind
that
of
are at their advantage.
No, you know what? I'm going to credit St. Joe. Great hospitality, great food, great facilities. It starts in St. Joe, and I will not let Gabe slander Missouri Western.
Yeah. Well, but I think the other thing that Clark Hunt said is he, to me, I interpret it as he almost guaranteed that if they're not in Arrowhead, it's going to be a dome, whether it's a new stadium in Missouri or whether it's in Kansas. I think that they're just too set on, if you're going to walk away from all of the legacy of Arrowhead Stadium and the legacy and the memories of Clark Hunt and his dad, Lamar, and what it means to Chiefs fans, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to do it in favor of being able to host Final Fours, being able to host Super Bowls, being able to host all of these World Cup events in the future in those types of places, and you would just want to help recoup whatever financial investment a local municipality makes by doing those types of things. So I think that if it's not Arrowhead, it will be a dome.
I agree. I agree, Gabe. Another thing we can agree on is that Steve Spagnuolo is pretty good. There's a reason that the phrase "in Spags we trust" caught fire last year, because, man, he was in his bag week to week to week and never let up. Last year I kind of kept thinking the shoe may fall, and they went so long without giving up more than 21 points, then so long without 24 points, then so long 27, and they just never really had that bad game. And I don't think that's a fair expectation for this coming year, because most defenses, after they have a great year, have a regression, especially when it's not a defensive-dominated team, which this team when you got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce, they're going to need their offense to do well. With that said, though, Steve Spagnuolo talked today and said he really liked what he saw out of his defense. This is now his 6th year as Chiefs defense coordinator, taking over for Bob Sutton. So he's been here a while, had great success, of course, winning these Super Bowls. As you see on screen there, this year is replacing L'Jarius Sneed and Willie Gay, while the team made the decision to bring back Chris Jones and Drew Tranquill. What is your take on the current state of this defense as we start training camp?
Spags was in mid-season form as far as holding a press conference. I thought the most important, notable thing that he said was that Justin Reed, the situation with him being away in terms of the injury with his quad, I guess, it sounds like they're not going to have him for a little bit of time.
He said, quote, a little bit. Who knows what that means? Day to day?
A little bit seems a little more honest than we're treating it as day to day, because we've heard we're treating it as day to day with Andy Reid and
with
guys
Eric
like Aaron Berry,
who was out for months, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I still feel like we're going to see Justin Reed in week 1. I don't think this is in a season thing, but I think it's okay to be precautious in this.
Yeah, because he's in year 3 of the system. He understands it as well as anybody. He's a Stanford guy. He's a very bright individual who understands how to run the whole offense or defense, excuse me. And I think that it's valuable to get Brian Cook out there after he missed a lot of time last year. It's valuable to get Jaden Hicks in there.
Yeah, he's the guy who's really stepped up and taken those first team reps, the rookie there.
Yeah, and I just think that that's going to be one of the key things to look at in the secondary is how well can the Chiefs defense be on the back end without L'Jarius Sneed, because we still believe so much in Trent McDuffie, but it's going to be there. That is still really big shoes to fill from the losing Sneed. And
so the current depth chart right there, of course, has Trent McDuffie, which today Steve Spagnuolo said he doesn't know if he's going to have him follow a number 1 wide receiver like L'Jarius Sneed did sometimes, or kind of play more in a base defense. Right now, Joshua Williams is getting the first-team snaps as the second corner, but Spags said it's an open competition, throwing Jalen Watson in there, who's currently out with an injury, but he, of course, will have something to say, and Najee Johnson, who's also recovering from injury, but out there right now. Those are the kind of leaders in the clubhouse, and I think it will be interesting, Gabe, to see if someone emerges as the number 2 quarterback or if they go more by committee. Should also mention Shamari Connor playing a lot of nickel, so they can get creative that way, especially with Brian Cook back healthy, with Justin Reed. Then you throw Jaden Hicks. I think they can mix and match and use those safeties If you group like Reed, Cook, Connor, and Hicks as safeties, they can kind of help fill some of the void that L'Jarius Sneed left, because Sneed was a very physical corner as well, and would blitz and play in the box, and that was some of his greatest value. And so I think they can rely on that creativity, especially with Spags drawing it up, to have success as a defensive backfield, even though they lose a phenomenal player.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Williams is one of the taller corners in the league, and that length and versatility to play physically at the line of scrimmage as a corner is big, and you've seen what Spags wants to do with that kind of stuff. They lose with not having Sneed, one of the best cornerback blitzers in the league.
Right.
So I'd be interested to see who fills that role, although we did have a pretty good example of McDuffie with a big one in the Super Bowl. I'm also intrigued to see defensive line-wise.
Right, because I think
Felix
he goes
does.
hand in hand. People, you think you're trying to replace L'Jarius Sneed in pure coverage. One way you can replace L'Jarius Sneed is getting after the passer more consistently, more frequently, and with guys that come in and out. As far as that defensive line rotation, that's a great way to help out your defensive backs so that, maybe Joshua Williams can't guard some of the number 2 wide receivers in the league for 7 seconds. Can he guard them for 5? That's the difference, and that's why, Felix, you go up and down the defensive line board. I think that's where
we
you
could
can
be
go.
in for a huge year 3 from George Karlaftis.
Yes. They brought back Mike Dana. Charles Omenihu's probably going to be back sooner than a lot of people think. Shout out Mike Pinnell, just because I like Mike Pinnell.
Yeah.
Pride of Arizona State. Okay, and moving on to the Diamond, Gabe. Boy, I'm fired up because the Royals are fired up. They're 10 games over 500. They sweep the Chicago White Sox this weekend, moving to 55-45 on the season. A stat from the KC5 Stat Department, also known as Gabe Swartz' Twitter account. The Royals, undefeated against the White Sox at home, 7-0, outscoring the Sox 37-8. Just pure domination against a team that's not good. All right, we know that.
But that's what you're supposed to do.
Man, it's one thing to say, hey, you should beat these guys. But there would be no shame in going 6-1 or, winning some close games. But day in and day out, Gabe, the Royals handle the White Sox with the series as the best example, especially from a pitching performance, because at the bottom of your screen, you see Michael Walker, Brady Singer both went 7 innings, allowing 0 runs on Friday, Saturday. And Seth Lugo tossed his first complete game, giving up only 1 run.
And the only reason that he allowed a run is because he hit a guy on a 1-2 pitch.
Yeah.
So, the pitching staff was dominant. And
that doesn't include Cole Reagans, who goes tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a really good chance, not to look ahead of the Diamondbacks, but next weekend with the Cubs coming to town, their offense has been
They're struggling,
very, very poor this year in terms of swing and miss rate, runners in scoring position, all of those types of things. So I think that if the Royals can get 2 of 3 against a Diamondbacks team that right now is, I believe, tied for the last NL wildcard spot. It's one of those things where these two teams are really jockeying for a wild card at this point. I think that the Diamondbacks are 7 or 8 back of the Dodgers in the NL West. So both of these teams have the wild card kind of in their sights. The Royals, although it got a lot more realistic to compete for that AL Central.
No, it was a great weekend, and the Diamondbacks currently are 2 games over 500, and they are tied for the final wild card spot in the National League, 8 back of the Dodgers in the West. So not a bad team, obviously, in the World Series last year. And if you go 2-3, you got the Cubs at home. Within this weekend, it'd be your top 3 guys. You'd have Brady Singer, Seth Lugo, and Cole Reagans on the mound. So I think tonight's a big game because if you should win with Cole Reagans on the mound. Honestly, he's just pitching phenomenally. And then you look at a split over the last 2. Alec Marshall a little more consistent, typical 5 starter. But that's why this team is just – I know it was the White Sox, Gabe, but when you start to think about what this team can do, I can't help but be optimistic when it starts with starting pitching that – it was the White Sox, but against other good teams, they've performed very well as well, consistently, 1 through 4 especially. And if you move Alec Marsh to the bullpen in the playoffs, I think Royals fans should be excited and confident that, yes, maybe this is a team that flames out in the wild card round, but on paper, they have a pitching staff that can really do some damage.
It also is July 22nd, And if they win tonight, they tie the amount of wins that they had all of last season. So that can't be overstated that they're 100 games into this season and they have 62 games to essentially better what they did or improve upon what they did last year. It's
just an incredible turnaround.
It's an incredible turnaround.
Which I think some people forget because of how hot the start was. That it's like
when you completely by late May, early June, the expectations had been readjusted, and that you can't lose that.
Which is fair, but it's like when you're 15 games above 500, you're like, all right, how can we win the Central without thinking, oh yeah, last year like the win-loss total was like barely over 70 games heading into the year, and they'll clear that in a couple weeks, and I'm sure people who bet the over on the win total will be very excited.
They will be very excited, yeah.
And so I think it's just fun to watch baseball that matters right now because this hasn't happened a lot this time of year. A lot of people turn their attention to Chiefs training camp. And what a time to be a Kansas City sports fan, Gabe, because you've got Chiefs content in the morning. All right, you're watching our live stream here on KCTV5 where we're bringing you press conferences from the stars of the back-to-back Super Bowl champion Chiefs. We're showing you highlights. Then you get a nice little nap in. You get some food. Then guess what? You go watch a winning baseball team. It's just really exciting. I hope Kansas City is enjoying it because we don't know what the future is going to hold. If you said the Royals were in it in September and then just couldn't quite finish the deal, that's believable. So right now, while the optimism is high, I hope Royals fans are enjoying this and get on out to the K. It's great weather. Go support the boys in blue.
It's been incredible. I was out there on Friday night, and just to have Waka come out, get out of a jam in the first inning with a double play, and then Bobby jumps on the White Sox with that home run.
Yeah,
it was very good to see the team not have a stressful we're in a battle Friday and Saturday. They got up early, they were comfortable, they were ahead, they kind of front run, got a front runner chance, and then Sunday they really battled through a day where they really were not very good offensively through the first 6 innings and just
White Sox pitch well, but I mean their bullpen is so bad, and that's where. But the Royals have just been clutch this year with runners in scoring position and late, and I mean they have let's be clear here. They have one of the best players in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Bobby Witt Jr., who was just named American League Player of the Week. Of his last 12 plate appearances, he's reached base 10 times, or he's gone 9 for 11 with a walk. However you want to phrase that. Any notion, like I know there's some people like, I don't want him doing the home run derby because it'll ruin his swing. Well, that's not a thing. It didn't
ruin his swing. It did not ruin his swing at all.
And so that's where it's good as the pitching has been. Bobby Witt Jr. is on a different level. Hunter Renfroe's played a lot better. Michael Massey has also been a difference maker, I think. Salvador Perez is Salvi. I know he had a tough day on Sunday, but he's been playing as well. Like, I think the bullpen additions of Hunter Harvey add some depth to the pen, and also Chris Bubich. I have said, even though I'm more positive than the next guy about the Royals, I've been saying that the bullpen really concerns me since the start of the year, and it does still kind of concern me. But I'm definitely less concerned with the way Harvey and Bubich now fit into the back end of the bullpen.
I also just think, given what the Royals are, given what they did in 2014, I know they don't have a lot of playoff experience to reference off of, but as a franchise, and then you have an extra wild card spot, you have evidence of last year where the Diamondbacks and that they're going to play
Rangers.
this week, and the Rangers both made the World Series as wild card teams. They have to buy a little bit
to a degree
at the deadline, like just show a little bit of belief, whether it's a corner outfielder to help with Melendez's injury.
But they have. Would you consider?
Bullpen.
Do you think they're going? So here's a question: do you think they'll have a bigger trade than the Hunter Harvey trade, or do you think they should have a bigger trade than?
I think that they should add a corner outfield bat because, as evidenced, when MJ Melendez goes down, Drew Waters is really good at AAA, and he's pedestrian in the MLB.
You got Adam Frazier, you got Darren Blanco, you got Nelson Velasquez, but none of those guys.
But like Adam Frazier's hitting 206, and he's the guy that they're going with in the
he's
leadoff
leading
spot.
Off.
And I know that he's not like the most popular guy in the MLB, but Tommy Pham was literally just in Kansas City this weekend. He was one of the only guys on the White Sox who consistently was getting on base. He drove in the only run that the White Sox scored.
And he was on the Diamondbacks last year, helped him get to the World Series.
And he's hitting like 278 or 280 this season.
Right. But it comes down to the cost. If you look at what they gave up for Hunter Harvey, Caden Wallace was ranked as the number 2 prospect in the Royals system by MLB.com. I don't know if I buy that because he's a older third baseman that didn't hit for a lot of power in Double-A, and so I don't know the ceiling there. So I don't know if I'd put him at number 2. I think that's a little optimistic, but fine prospect, at least a depth guy.
Yeah.
and then the 39th overall draft pick for a guy that you have a year and a half of control and has been good, but not, you're not trading for Aroldis Chapman here.
Yeah.
I just think right now with how many teams that are still in the playoff race, at least today on July 22nd, you're going to have to give up a lot for even a guy like Tommy Pham. And I want to see them buy, but I don't want them to give up a top 5 prospect.
That's fair. I think that's completely fair. I also think that MJ Melendez has gotten hotter when he was healthy.
Sure, yeah.
And
we don't know how long that injury will be.
And it's hard to truly be upset with JJ Picollo if he doesn't make a move, because you know that the prospects, the farm system's just not very strong at the moment.
Right.
And B, the options in terms of what is available at the deadline. Like, you're just not, if you're tough. Buying against the Dodgers and the Orioles.
Exactly. The Royals aren't the only team that want a corner outfielder.
Yeah.
And so that, but I think as far as need goes, can you win playoff games, make a playoff run with Kyle Isbell in center and MJ Melendez / Drew Waters / Nelson Velasquez / Adam Frazier in left field? I think you can if – then you got a lot of ifs. You need Hunter Renfroe to be the Hunter Renfroe that he's been the last couple of months.
You need Bobby Witt to hit like 470.
You need Bobby Witt Jr. to be one of the best players in baseball. You need Michael Massey to be what he's been when he's healthy. You need Michael Garcia to be the first month Michael Garcia. You need Freddie Fermin to be the same as your catcher / DH, Salvi to be Salvi, Vinny to be Vinny. If those 7 guys all play like they have and like is somewhat realistic for them to perform, then I think you can get by with a defense-first center fielder that Kyle Isbell's hit okay of late, and then whatever you get out of MJ Melendez in left field. However, I don't blame anybody for wanting to give the Royals a little bit more of a margin for error, or the Royals wanting to give a little margin for error, because that's a lot of ifs.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's an absolute requirement, necessity to say that if they don't trade for a left fielder or a corner outfielder that they can't or won't make a deep playoff run, because we've seen a 2014 Royals team that people thought had holes that still made that run because of their great pitching and timely hitting.
You also just have to think that playoff baseball is different.
Exactly.
You don't need all 5 starters. Alec Marsh, we saw him on Friday night for the 9th inning, and he was touching 97 with his fastball.
And even a fourth, like in a 3-game wild card series, you don't need
a 5th.
Yeah.
So I think that the bullpen, just by virtue of shortening the starting staff, the bullpen gets better if you go to Waka or Marsh.
Yeah. And so then
that's getting way ahead of ourselves.
No, but that's where it's a lower scoring game, and the other team can do the same. It's not only a Royals benefit, but that's where I don't think you need a lineup that goes out and scores 7 runs every game to win in the playoffs. You need your stars to be stars. You need timely hitting, and I think they can be that team even without adding a left or right fielder. However, if they do, I will be very fired up because that means they're really going in. It's just it's the mix of playing for now versus playing for the future. And, boy, it's exciting times, I tell you that much. My fingers are crossed because we've never really had a blue October where the Chiefs are also Super Bowl favorites. I don't know if my brain can handle that. I don't know if Kansas City can handle that, but I'm willing to find out. So, with that in mind, we got a lot to look forward to, and, man, it's going to be fun to talk about this every step of the way here on KCW5. So, for Gabe Swartz, thank you for hanging out with us here. Remember, we've got Chief Streams tomorrow, Tuesday morning, Andy Reid live press conference. I'll be right back here joining you. But for now, James Shields, salute. Adios. Have a good one, everyone.